Welcome back to NFL Bets, where, man, oh man, do we have an interesting week in Week 8. I went 7-8. Chris, I feel bad, man, 4-11, but you did get the Cleveland game right, so that's worth something. That helped the Ravens more than any of this stuff. Peter and Jason went 8-7, but a new challenger appeared in our comments. Shout out to Kenneth_FE. This man went 10-3. He didn't pick 2 games, but he still got 10 right, which is really great. So while I may knock you for not having the courage to go for the other 2 games, you're a smart man and made some money this week, I hope. So well done.
Yeah, man. And share your picks again this week, too. Maybe we can all win some money,
Hey, man, why don't you put your picks out there before we pick, and then we'll look real smart.
Yeah, for real.
Oh, man.
So very cool.
I mean, so he abstained. Can I abstain from picking primetime games going forward? Because I look back on this, the past 4 weeks, I've only picked 1 primetime game correctly. My day picks have actually had a pretty good record, but my primetime picks are killing me, apparently.
Oh, man. Well, unfortunately, we made this rule where we have to pick them all, and it bites you sometimes. I mean, there's definitely some of these games where I would do a no bet because it's just, don't feel it. And one of these days soon, hopefully, we'll actually be able to, do it online
real.
legally. How many emails have we gotten being like, it's coming in the air tonight? It's like, I don't know. Hold on, apparently.
I think I heard a rumor it's going to be after Thanksgiving, but if we had, every rumor we've had for this, I feel like we'd have 50 free tickets for games.
Seriously. Well, let's get started. Thursday night, Philadelphia at Houston. Philadelphia is a 14-point favorite, boys and girls. I mean, sheesh. And it sounds about right. They dominated Pittsburgh. They got ahead. They just look like a real deal team. Have no losses. This will not be the game that they lose, I imagine. And I think they're going to cover. I just think it's silly to bet against them.
Gosh, I'm just looking back at the other scores for Houston. They lost by 6 or 7 last week. They lost by 18 the week before. I couldn't look before that. It feels like a really big spread, but Philadelphia is playing really well right now. And as much as I would want to go out on a limb and pick Houston, it's not the week for that. I need to pick the winners.
What makes this game really difficult is the Eagles are the traveling team on Thursday night, and we obviously saw that the Ravens were fine with that. But, again, Houston, with the exception of the Raiders game, has really played the spread well. They haven't gotten blown out this year quite a bit. So I am going to pick Houston to cover, which means everyone should put their money on the Eagles, as we've said. I've only gotten 1 primetime game right in the past 4 weeks. So there you go. There's your free square for this week. All right, next up, another massive spread. The Buffalo Bills will be traveling to MetLife to take on division rival Jets. The Jets had an really bad loss, excruciating loss at home last week to the Patriots. I don't think it's going to be any easier for them this week. I will pick the favorite to cover the giant spread here, despite the fact that Buffalo came a half point shy of covering last week.
I'm really tempted to pick the Jets here for no other reason than they're playing at that horrible turf. It's a big spread, divisional, but I mean, it just feels like a sucker's bet, right? You're not betting from the win. You're betting keep it kind of close. I'm wondering what Candace is going to do here. I'm going Buffalo.
I'll pick the Jets on this one, even though they had a heartbreaking loss last week. They were only down by 5. Buffalo also came in close last week with that Green Bay game. Green Bay's been awful, and they were able to cover there. So, we'll pick the Jets. It's a division game, so it could be close. All right, next up we've got Miami at Chicago. Oh, gosh. Chicago, man. Oh, man, they are huge sellers at the trade deadline. trade deadline. Miami's favored by 5. I think I got to go Miami. We'll see what the Chicago defense looks like without Roquan. It's probably not going to be very pretty.
I think it's interesting about Miami is I love what they're doing with their team build. They just got Chubb, and I just think, like, man, it could be scary. So, anyways, I'm going to go with them for sure in this game. I think Miami might be an interesting team in the playoffs this year.
Yeah, the past 2 weeks, Bears offense seems to have figured something out. 2 weeks ago, it was in a blowout win against the Patriots, and last week it was in a blowout loss to the Cowboys. I don't think that the Bears secondary is going to be able to cover Hill and Waddle, and you've even got Gesicki starting to get into the mix there. I think the Dolphins are going to be too much for the Bears. Next up, we've got the Minnesota Vikings traveling to Landover to take on the Commanders. Minnesota is a 3.5-point favorite. They came off the bye week last week and easily handled an Arizona team that looked pretty good against New Orleans on Thursday Night Football. And Washington, that took them to the last minute to beat the Colts last week. Minnesota, I mean, somehow they're having a really good year. I think we got to take Minnesota here.
I find this one really difficult. Minnesota paid a king's ransom for Hawkinson. I don't understand why. And Washington just traded away one of their corners. So I'm going to go with Minnesota being able to cover as well.
Same. Minnesota's on a roll. I have no reason to pick the Commanders over them. All right, next up we've got Green Bay at Detroit. Green Bay favored by 3.5. What happened to Detroit, man? The first couple of weeks, their offense was doing amazing. Their defense just need to pick it up, and now they've just like completely imploded on all phases of the ball. It's really sad. And then clearly at the trade deadline, yeah, they've definitely been sellers with getting rid of Hawkinson, like you mentioned, Alec. I'm gonna go Green Bay here. I could see a world that maybe Detroit was able to pull it out, but honestly, things aren't looking too good for them right now. So I'm going to go Green Bay.
I honestly don't know if there's any way I could pick Green Bay as a favorite in any game, even if they were only a half-point favorite. I got to take Detroit here simply because I understand that Detroit is not a good football team either, but I just don't understand if Green Bay has any direction or any idea what they're doing. Especially because this game's in Detroit. I'm taking the Lions.
I'm taking the Lions too, and it's mainly because of what you said, Peter. Like, Green Bay gives me no confidence to say that they're going to be able to win, let alone cover. And yeah, like, I don't know. Detroit just managed to get. I love what you said, Chris, in our chat. They managed to get 2 Mark Andrews and 2 Isaiah Likely draft selections for a guy that's not good. Like, that's not better than maybe either of them. It's like, that was a good joke. So yeah, Detroit for me. Next up. Wild game. You got the Chargers visiting the Atlanta Falcons. The Chargers are favored by 3. The Falcons just keep finding ways to win. They just somehow made it out against the Panthers because Pinero decided he can't kick a field goal. And yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and pick the Chargers here to recover. They're coming off of their bye. They had time to figure things out, maybe. So that's why I like the Chargers.
I think a really interesting variable here is, does Keenan Allen play? We know he's been practicing for a while, but just hasn't gotten back on the field. I don't know if the bye is going to be the difference there. I just don't feel any positive vibes about the Chargers this year. They've had a lot of injuries. They just haven't found the way to finish games against teams they should. Now, granted, of course, Atlanta, not exactly a powerhouse themselves, but this is a game you don't bet on, I think. But I'm just going to take Atlanta because they're at home, and I'm not impressed with what I've seen from the Chargers this year.
Yeah. Atlanta obviously coming off that overtime win last week. Week before that, kind of blown out by the Bengals. I don't know. Chargers maybe somewhat close to the Bengals in terms of roster. I don't know if that says anything. I don't know. I'll pick Chargers. I don't feel great about it. All right, another game. One I probably feel a little bit better about. Indianapolis at New England. No, this is not Peyton Manning and Tom Brady. This is whatever. I don't even know which quarterbacks are going to be playing for these teams. Maybe Mac Jones might be playing. Maybe Zappy. I don't know. I'm going to pick New England. They're favored 5.5 points here. After last week, with Indianapolis struggling to beat the Commanders, which I don't even know how the Commanders are so good as they are. I'm really not impressed with them as a team. But they didn't really. The Colts didn't really give me much confidence in that game, so I'm going to go New England.
Yeah, so I just think that New England's going to be able to cover for no other reason than Belichick is a maestro at dominating new quarterbacks, and Sam Ehlinger is no different, in my opinion. So that's how. I mean, New England's been able to win some weird games this year, and I think they'll keep it up here.
Yeah, I mean, Zach Wilson is not living up to his draft capital yet in the NFL, but he's better than Ehlinger, and especially considering this game will be in New England, I'll imagine the Patriots defense will be enough for them to get the win, regardless of what the offense is able to put up. All right, next up, we've got Carolina at Cincinnati. Cincinnati is a 7.5-point favorite, and the shocker of the week was the fact that the Browns are just able to dominate the Jamar Chase-less Cincinnati Bengals offense, and unfortunately, my almond joys were just completely disrespected. I've always viewed Almond Joy as a top 10 candy bar. I just love the coconut filling in those things. I think they're very good. However, I got a notification from Underdog before the Monday night game started that they were just something like, I don't remember exactly what they said, but there was something like having to watch the Jamar Chase-less Cincinnati Bengals offense is like getting Almond Joys for Halloween. I'm like, man, I'm assuming this is shots fired. I'm assuming you're not saying that the Bengals offense is just going to come out here and be at its best form without Chase. And sure enough, I found out that Underdog hates Almond Joys based on what happened. So because of that, because of Cincinnati soiling the reputation of one of my favorite candy bars, I got to take Carolina in spite. This is the analysis you came here for, folks.
Oh gosh.
In seriousness, though, I think Carolina.
I can see it, man. I'm just
They're
looking at the last 2 weeks. Yeah, since they fired Rule, they won against Tampa 21-3, almost a blowout, and then they came within 3 points of Atlanta last week in overtime. I can certainly see it. What the heck? I mean, yeah, I've seen stranger things. I think that, the Bengals. They were starting to put some things together. I think the Chase injury definitely is going to hurt them a little bit. I'd love to see Carolina win this game. Push the Bengals back into their game. Shoot, let's pick them.
I don't know if Carolina's going to win the game, but that half point, man, the 7.5 is what made me think that I was going to go with Carolina. I thought maybe I'd be special and different, but now it's like apparently we're all in agreement. Carolina has some fight in them. I think this one could definitely go wrong. I can totally see the outcome of like the 30 to 10 victory, total blowout. Like that's totally in the range of outcomes. Cincinnati is playing at home, and now I'm kind of talking myself into Cincinnati again. But I'm going to say that half point bites them in the butt, and they maybe only win by 7. So Carolina. All right, Vegas is visiting the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Right. Get that
Vegas,
X in there, the Jacksonville Jaguars.
I was about to bring it up, Peter. So Vegas is favored by 2, and the big storyline for this game is nothing about any players. It's us finally conceding that it's Jax, Jax, because I was watching them this week and I noticed it's on their jersey. And we're like, I remember Peter was like, "There's no darn X in Jacksonville.
Exactly,
this is
there's
stupid." Like I'm putting Jack, and he was like the spreadsheet person in chief and filling it out. So we followed suit. But now we're switching to Jags because we want to identify them as they identify themselves, so to speak. I'm picking the Jacksonville, by the way, to cover here. I think that they can win, and I think they'll keep it close.
Shoot, well, one thing, JAX is also the name of the Jacksonville International Airport. So, I mean, it kind of aligns with that a little bit. But
I see.
That being said, I'm going to go Vegas. Not because I like Vegas, but because I don't know. Jacksonville's another one of those teams that just like, I couldn't believe that they lost that game against the Broncos, man. Trevor Lawrence is like, just, I don't know, looking like he's seeing ghosts or something. Really just making really poor decisions and the most critical high leverage plays. The Raiders, I'm not going to lie, they looked awful against the Saints last week. Watching that tape, I didn't really learn too much about the Saints themselves. I learned that the Raiders just flat out stink. But I don't know, I have a little bit more confidence in the Raiders maybe to pull something out against this matchup, so I'll pick them.
Yeah, I don't know what to expect from either of these teams. I mean, you could point to the fact that the three previous games prior to this, the Raiders' offense had put up a ton of points, but you know that shutout, and it was a brutal shutout. They didn't get the ball over the 50-yard line until late in the fourth quarter. I think Carr had already been pulled by that point. I don't know what to expect from Vegas. Like we're saying, Jacksonville, we were all excited about them as like, oh man, they're up and coming after they crushed the Chargers. And it turns out, oh no, wait, the Chargers suck too. So I don't know. If game's in Jacksonville, the Jaguars have seemed to finally unlock Travis Etienne. Maybe the Jaguars can use him the way that the Saints use Kamara against the Raiders defense, and that'll be the difference. So I'm going to go with that and then go on to, looks like we got Seattle, Arizona next. This game will be in Arizona. Arizona is a 2-point favorite. The Seattle Seahawks just continue to shock the league. We were excited about the Seahawks and the Giants matching up, basically the two Cinderellas of the year so far to date, matching up in Seattle. Seattle won that game handedly. I do not see the Cardinals as a threat to the Seahawks. I think that Seattle should be favored in this game, which I guess they technically are again because Arizona is -2. So, they get 3 points for the home field advantage. So, I think the Seahawks are going to keep rolling somehow, and I still don't understand it, but they've looked really good this year.
I couldn't say it better to myself. I thought Arizona was gonna be like able to cover last week, and I think I picked I forget. I guess I know I picked Arizona because I lost the bet. Anyways, Arizona, like I said, Arizona's my Achilles heel. I always get it wrong, so I'm gonna go with the Seahawks, and maybe I'll be wrong again. But yeah, Seahawks.
Yeah. For what it's worth, I mean, yeah, these teams played each other back in Week 6. Seattle won that matchup 19-9. I don't know. I feel like I plant my flag on this one being a little bit different. I have a little bit more confidence. I feel like what I'm getting at in like this whole episode, I don't have a whole lot of confidence in a lot of teams in the NFL right now, so I try to pick against them. Arizona, I can't say that I have a ton of confidence in them either. I don't love their offense, or frankly, I don't love their defense either. But it is at home, and I think there is a little bit more of a revenge game narrative. I think wanting to get back at them for that loss a couple weeks ago. I'll pick Arizona here, but I don't feel great about it. Next up, LA Rams at Tampa. Tampa favored by 2.5. This one's interesting, man. Two very good teams that honestly have very underwhelmed this year. I think I might go Tampa here. Not to get into too much off-field stuff, but I'm sure Brady needs something to think about other than his recent divorce with Giselle. I'm going to think he doubles down into the playbook after a very disappointing home loss against the Ravens last week and say that they pull out and they win. So I'll go Tampa.
It's insane to think that at the beginning of this year, back in January, we were watching this matchup in Tampa Bay, and it was one of the most exciting games of the postseason. And now we're looking at this, and we're looking at this as one of the least savoring matchups on this slate of games this week. I got to go Tampa simply because they're at home. Both these teams look like a wreck right now, but I mean, honestly, I don't think I can pick the Rams again this year. I said last week that I thought that coming off a bye at home against divisional rival San Francisco, and they needed to come in, and if they didn't win the game, it could have been the end of their season. Not only did they not win the game, they got crushed. I think they're done. They might not win another game this year, and I don't think I'm overreacting. Tampa wins this one by default.
Wow. So before we started this, I said, guys, what do you think? Rams versus Tampa Bay, who's favored? And then both of them were kind of stumped, and they both went Tampa Bay because there's the home team. And I'm gonna go with the Rams to win this game, and thus cover, because obviously the spread's not that big of a difference. Just because both these teams are in shambles, like you said, and now I got a new one. When mediocre plays mediocre, take the points.
But that's not this matchup. This is when dumpster fire plays dumpster fire.
Yeah, I mean it's bad. The Rams it's wild. And yeah, I mean both these teams, it's just it total wild scenario. So we'll see. All right, this next game is wild too. Look at this. So Tennessee is visiting the Chiefs. The Chiefs are favored 12.5 points. Do we know if Malik Willis is going to play again? Do we know yet?
I think that Tannehill was ruled out last week not because of injury, but because of illness. But he does also have an injury.
See, well, I don't think it really matters. I was just curious. Did you guys realize he threw the ball once and they still won in the second half?
I mean, when you got Derrick Henry going against the Houston Texans, that's like 2003 Jamal Lewis going against the Cleveland Browns, right?
Yep.
Yeah, it's crazy. I'm going with Kansas City. They're a very good team. And I really think, Tennessee's discipline, they're kind of like a lesser Giants in a way. They wait for you to give them a way to win, but I don't see it, man. KC's really good.
KC will be coming off a bye, too. This game is in Kansas City. Tennessee's record has been better than we've expected this year. And honestly, just like we're talking about the Saints, they could be mediocre the rest of the year and easily win the AFC South because that division is just so bad. I think that the Chiefs match up great here, which is why I'm taking the Titans because, as we know, I can't pick the primetime games. So clearly I don't know what I'm talking about, and I'm going to lock in Tennessee.
Nice. I'm just looking back at the last couple of weeks for Tennessee. I mean, their record has been a lot of these teams that we've been talking about, just not very good teams. That is a really big spread. I think I'll go KC as well. It would not shock me if Tennessee did keep this game close. I mean, you have to remember too, a couple of years ago, there was a really fantastic regular season game that went into overtime between these two teams. But I do think this Tennessee team this year is probably not the same team that knocked off the Ravens that year. I'll go KC. And then last but not least, the moment you've all been waiting for, Baltimore at New Orleans. Baltimore favored by 3. If you guys listened to our Saints preview episode, then you should know. I think all of us, well, actually, I can't say all of us. 2 out of the 3 of us at least picked Baltimore to win this game, and that includes me, so I'm going to go Baltimore.
Baltimore! They'll win it. They'll cover.
You guys should have let me go last. But I guess, actually, like I said, I can't pick primetime games. I think this is a trap game for the Ravens. I think that the Saints have figured something out. I'm picking New Orleans, which means the Ravens are going into the bye 6-3.
You heard it from Peter first.
Let's go.
Well, leave your picks. We appreciate the interaction, and it's a lot of fun picking these. And let us know what you think. And we'll see you next week.